Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shiggles. I am that guy Rickster,
Hi, Darian here, guys.
and
Not me
this week
waving
he
like
sounds
y'all can see
happy.
me.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Uh,
that was funny.
yes, it was. So, I'm going to ask you, how was your week?
It was alright. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too. Yeah, it was an alright week. Let's just leave it at that. What about you?
He asked people, he asked.
Girl, let's be
My
real
week
for a
was
second because I
okay.
asked you every week. So dramatic.
Every week is a stretch. But anyway, my week was okay. It was all right, just like yours. I don't think there's anything to like write home about. There's no depression hasn't set in. Hasn't happened for a while. So it's been it's been good. We will say that. It's been a good week.
That's good.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to this week's topic, which is traveling, which is a broad statement, but let's get into it. Are you a fan of traveling?
I never thought I was until I moved out of Jamaica.
Uh huh.
Because traveling in Jamaica is there's many forms of travel, because traveling from Kingston to
Yeah,
Montego Bay is traveling, but
it's
Jamaica is so
traveling.
small, it's just like, it's not necessarily like traveling. But since I've moved here, I realize that I do actually like seeing
Uh
new
huh.
places, a new city, and America is huge. It's huger than it's supposed to be for a country, but we're not gonna get into
Yeah.
that. But like basically traveling from one state to the next is like traveling to another country because all of the states are almost like its own country. Either way, this just so different.
Like an island.
Yeah, like you travel from New York and you go to Florida is like a totally different. Is it you actually in a different hemisphere too? So then there's that. But I do
And
actually
every
like
state is somewhat different.
somewhat different. So I do like traveling. The nerd and the geography nerd in me likes to see new cities.
Because that's what you studied, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to see new cities, the design. Like for people who follow me, like I randomly post like views of the city of New York. Like every time, like I find like a new view that I haven't seen before
Spot.
or a new spot. Yeah. So I like traveling because of that. It's also interesting because every time I've traveled, even though I'm introverted, I've met a lot of nice people, strangers from all over the
Yeah.
world, and I like that too. So traveling is fun
Yeah.
for me.
I've always liked it. Even when I was younger, is something I wanted to do. So when the opportunity came for me to travel for the first time, I was very excited. And I mean, I've always said this that, well, not always, but since I started traveling, I've said it that if you have the opportunity or you have the means in which you can afford to travel to different countries, do it because it opens your mind to different cultures, different experiences. You get to meet different people. You get to hear different stories. That's not just your own from where you were born and raised. So it broadens your horizon to like what else is out there apart from what your country has to offer. And that's something I like about traveling, specifically the fact that you get to like experience a whole other culture in a whole other country. I really like that.
It also gives you a broader view of life per se, because you
Yes.
get to experience like as you said just now, like different cultures, stuff like that. Like you get to see experience things that like you've maybe only seen on TV, so like you get to have the experience like firsthand. that's that's
Yeah.
um that's like me when I just moved to New York, and like everything was just so it was just so surreal, but it also felt like I've been here before because I've seen it so much. um
Yeah.
but yeah, it does
And
help with
that's
that as well.
That's one of the other cool things as well. So like for us who are we're really into anime, one of the places I want, which is the other thing I was going to ask you, is like places you'd want to visit. Japan. Like watching anime and seeing all these places like Shibuya and Tokyo of course, and then you see actual photos and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks exactly the same. I can just imagine when I eventually get to Japan, I would want to visit all those spots, and the nerd in me is going to just geek out because it's just going to be amazing.
I felt the same way too because I think I always just wanted to go to Japan primarily because I watch anime. No other reason. Oh well, lies. I like nature. For those of you who don't know,
Yeah.
so I always wanted to go when they have the cherry blossoms. I want to
Yes,
see
that's
that
something that's
so
so
badly,
beautiful.
and we have it here in the U.S. I think in DC. Uh, I think it's around this time if I'm
But
remembering
I don't
correctly.
think it's around spring.
It's
But I
not
don't
the
think it's the
same,
same
but at least you can get an idea of
of
what
what
it would
it's
be
going to
like.
be like.
So
Yeah.
because of that as well. But to answer your questions for places that I want to go, uh so I generally want to go to places that kind of align with things that I like. So
Uh huh.
if I tell someone, "Oh, I want to go to Iceland," they'll be like, "Why do you want to go to Iceland?" But then I'm a geography nerd, so I can go watch volcanoes erupting, see glaciers.
Not
Yes,
volcanoes.
people do. You do have tourist trips like that in Iceland where you
Have
stand
you
from a
guys
distance.
forgotten Pompeii?
For those of you who don't know, there are different types of volcanic eruptions. The ones that happen in Iceland are called Icelandic eruptions, and they're
I'm
not
just being an ass.
violent. It's just like oozing out. It's not one of those
Yeah.
boom shit flying in the air sort of eruption. It's more like a oozing
Like
out eruption.
Pompeii.
So no, you would be perfectly fine. You're watching it from a distance, just slowly running out.
Until you're not.
Shut the hell up. But Iceland is one because of that. Because Iceland has a lot of like nature stuff. I want to go
Mhm.
to Brazil. Brazil. So I realize I have different reasons to go to different places. Brazil is
Yeah.
primarily for the people. Primarily for the people. I think
The
based on what I've
guys.
seen. I mean, it could be the guys too, but based on what I've seen, Brazilians are
Okay.
pretty fun. Yes, they're
Because
pretty
we've
attractive.
seen the guys.
Not you trying to clock,
Twitter.
not you trying to clock my tea, but
I mean, I know. So,
I'd go to Brazil primarily because of the people. Greece is because I'm obsessed with ancient Greek mythology
yeah.
and the buildings and designs and shit like that. So that's the reason why I want to go to Greece. So those are like the three places off the top of my head that I really want to go to.
Okay. Let's get into it. I mentioned the first one, Japan. Not just for anime, but I am in love with Asian cultures.
And Asian
So a
people.
lot of the
Let's not forget that.
yes, and Asian people, of course.
So
But I'm
basically, you're going there
obsessed
to
with
look
their
mad.
culture. So I love Asian cultures. I don't
Ain't
like
nothing is
you.
wrong with that. When you brought up the whole Brazil thing, I owned up to it, didn't I?
Yes, and I'm not saying no, but
But-
anywho. There's no but. That's the thing. There's no but. That would be fun. Okay, so Japan definitely not just for the anime and the people and the culture, but the technology alone.
Oh,
I want to go
yeah.
to Japan for
I'm
the
glad you brought that up.
technology. Yes, that one. Venice. I've always loved Venice. I would love to go to Venice just for the architecture alone. That's the reason I want to go to Venice. Indonesia and Cambodia for, like you mentioned, the nature. Those two places. They look so beautiful to me. And you know how everybody goes to Indonesia for like Bali and stuff like that. I don't want to go to like that part, the whole tourist part. I want to see like the real Indonesia. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, because I get it. It's like a tourist area a lot, but I think there's more than just Bali for Indonesia. You know, the other one. This might sound kind of weird, but I've always wanted to visit the Vatican.
For what freaking reason?
The architecture.
Oh,
and
okay. So
everything.
you like
Yes.
what do they call that architect? What do they call it again? It's they have a
What?
particular name for that so, type of architecture. I
I
just don't
don't.
remember.
I don't remember what it's called. I
Okay.
think I know what you're talking about. But I've always liked Rome. And then if you go to Rome, it makes sense to just go and visit the Vatican because you've heard all these things about the place. It's like a state on its own right there in Rome. I would love to visit there. I'm not a Roman Catholic or anything, but I would just love to see all that, you know? Yeah. And I think those are the ones off the top of my head that I would really like to visit before anything should happen to me in this life.
But the question that I should ask you, and this has kind of like deterred a lot of people from traveling and exploring the world. They
Yeah.
are afraid of going alone. Are you afraid of traveling alone?
I don't think I am. I mean, people who are close to me, and you obviously know, I literally moved to China by myself for 2.5 years. So, and I think if I could make it there, not speaking the language at all, I could literally go anywhere by myself. You just have to be very
Brave
aware of
and
your
aware. Yeah.
surroundings and not just, yeah, like brave, aware, and you have to have a sense of adventure, I would say, and just do it. Because then when you go alone as well, you end up meeting a lot of people
I
who you
was just
might
about
not
to
have
say
met
that
if you were with someone.
because I it's a conversation that I have with people and I'm like, "Oh, I went here alone and I did this alone. I traveled alone."
Yeah,
And they're like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, aside from the fact that I pretty much like to be alone, it's just
that
that
too.
I'm the type of person where if I really want to do something or go somewhere, especially travel, if I don't have anyone and I really need to go, not have to
Yeah,
really need or want to go, I'm gonna go. And
exactly.
since I've been here, like I've traveled within the country a lot by myself, um I've met a lot of amazing people. Some of them who I still have on my socials, and I pretty much have fun. Yes, it would have been nice to share this memory or this experience with someone, but when I look back, I'm like, that was a fun trip. But
Yeah,
also the negative also is when you travel by yourself, everything, the rules are all up to you. What time you wake up, what time you do this, what time you do what you eat, all of that. You don't really
that's
have
true.
people influencing it or making it kind of like the trip miserable because a lot of time traveling with people can be very, because people
Yeah.
have different schedules and times that they think they want to do things and all of that. So
Honestly, if you can afford to do it, why not? Just do it. Because then, if you're sitting and waiting on somebody to travel with, you may never get to go anywhere.
and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people eventually don't because oh I've always wanted to go but I don't have anybody to go with.
Just do it. Come on.
I would gladly do
Makes
that
sense.
myself.
Yeah.
Um,
So okay. Let's say we mentioned the places that we'd want to go off the off top of our heads, right? Right now in this moment, where would you live if it wasn't where
where
you
I'm
are
living,
now? Yeah.
um, I do not
Without
like.
thinking about it, the first thing that comes to your mind.
I don't know. It's kind of hard. Why it's
Really?
hard? Why it's hard is because
Yeah.
the top of the list place that I always wanted to live, I live here right now.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, since I was a kid, it was always a dream of mine to move and live in New
Yeah.
York. And I now that I live here, I kind of realize why. It's because I like cities, but I just like the fast paced life, like getting shit done, doing
Mm-hmm.
things late, all of that. Having access to things almost 24/7. So even like if I'm moving, it's gotta be to another city. Or maybe like a suburban area outside of a city. But off the top of my head, it probably be Jersey.
Okay.
Because Jersey's
Why
like
Jersey?
it's like a lesser, cleaner version of New York. And when you live here, it's like you get so accustomed to living here. It also
Yeah.
affects how you think about moving somewhere else because there's just a lot of things you won't, be able to do. You probably have to like change your lifestyle. If you live in Jersey, Jersey's literally like across the river. So
Yeah.
you can still just come into New York whenever you want to. 5 minutes, 1 minute on the train, and that's
Okay.
just it. If you live in Jersey City, because if you live in deep Jersey, like Elizabeth or Hoboken, that's like two
Yeah.
hours to get into New York. But I think that's the only place that I'm looking at right now.
Okay. So how about outside of
The U.S.
America? Yeah.
I don't think I
That's
would
more along the
live.
lines of what I
I don't
was
think I
thinking.
would live outside of
Okay.
at all.
American girl.
Not necessarily. There's just nothing outside of America that draws me to want to live anywhere else.
Okay.
Not that I
So I
love
have
America, It's just that I don't have an appeal to live anywhere else.
okay. I have two. I mentioned again, I'm going to say it again, Japan. I would live in Japan, like right now. And the other one is, and this is going to sound again weird, like why would you want to live there? Scotland. I would love to live in
Hmm.
Scotland.
Scot-
Exactly.
Scotland is somewhere. I'm not looking at you weird because of that. Scotland is actually somewhere that I'd visit because all of those
Yeah.
countries, Iceland, Scotland, uh, what's the other one? It was just on the tip of my tongue. Switzerland. They all have these unique sceneries and nature
Yes.
shit that I would actually like to see in real life. To live there,
And
no.
that's why I want to live there. I would love to live there. And the economy is not bad in Scotland.
Hmm,
So why not?
I guess, but
Yeah.
for me, nah. I think one of the reasons, even though New York is hard to live in, it's super
And
expensive.
expensive.
It's super expensive.
All
I've
those
come to
taxes.
realize that I like diversity a lot. So moving to a country where it's just strictly white people or strictly this, that probably wouldn't work for me at all.
I get that. I can see
That
that.
probably wouldn't work for me at all. So, nah.
But you make home where what did you say? What did you say? Home is what? Home is
Home
where
is
the
where you
heart is,
make it
like
or whatever.
or
I
something like
get that,
that.
but
Yeah.
nah, nah. I can really
Okay.
make anywhere home. I'm good at that. But if
Of
I have the
course.
choice, I'm not gonna choose something that's gonna have me miserable. So
Yeah.
no,
And
that's
the
a no
thing
for
is
me.
no one knows you like you know you. So
Exactly. So
yeah.
there's that as well.
Makes sense. So the other thing is would you mind talking about like countries that you visited?
So I haven't traveled to a lot of countries as yet. Of course I'm Jamaican, so that wouldn't count. I've traveled
Mm.
to Barbados and I've traveled to Trinidad and the States. So just those three countries for now. Um,
Okay.
this is what I tell people about traveling. When you travel somewhere and you're like, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
nice, it's a different experience to live there. Bear that in mind.
True.
It's because of marketing, how, countries like market themselves and be like, oh, come, we have this, we got that. They do, but also living and assimilating or like, living in it's really hard. It's
It's
just like,
completely different.
yeah, people glamorize moving to New York and it's everything that you see on TV, but it's also a lot more. It's way expensive to live here, fucking all of that. So those are
Yeah.
the only countries I've visited so far. Should be more, but I got a late start.
Eventually. Yeah.
What about you?
The ones well lived in China, so that counts. I visited Mexico before. Um and Bahamas? Yes. So China, Mexico, Bahamas. And I know this one might not count, but I'm still somewhat going to count it. So when I was coming back from China the last time, for some reason the plane stopped in South Korea and I was in the airport for like 3 hours. So I still counted as I visited South Korea.
No, but let's talk about that because I've traveled through a lot of states for that same thing. And
Yeah.
I've always tell people that, yeah, I traveled through the state.
Yeah, because I was in the airport.
I
That's
traveled
what
to
I
the state
say.
because I was in the airport. So like I
Yeah.
can have to add like the extra, but
Exactly.
it
So I
it
still
it,
counted
it, it does
because
count.
my plane literally landed in South Korea and I was there for 3 hours. So I visited there. So I might not have walked around, but I was there. My body
So
was physically there.
so I get that. And I think
Yeah.
it does count to
I
some
counted.
it's
I
to
don't
some
care. I
extent.
counted. I was there.
But yeah, but I think what I want to end and say on the whole traveling thing is
Traveling.
that don't be scared to travel on your own.
Yeah.
You might be surprised that it's probably one of the best experiences you've had. You've meet people. You also get a little in touch of yourself because if you can travel by yourself, you can do anything. Because it's
That's
really
true.
brave for people who travel by themselves. But solo traveling is very good. You get to enjoy just being by yourself, experiencing new things. And while you will have like little, I wish I was here sharing it with you, will still have a good time. So don't let anybody
Exactly.
stop you. Just do it.
And what I want to wrap up this segment by saying is what I said at the top of the episode. If you are able to do it because you never know what you might encounter. It's going to broaden your mind and you're going to open yourself up to different cultures and experiences that you would have never had if you stayed just where you were born.
Also,
So do
it
it.
gives exactly, and it gives a different perspective on the world, how others live,
Yes.
how it's different from how you live. Like your mind is like open and so much more. You
Yeah.
just get a really good understanding of the world and why certain places are like the way it is and people and stuff like that. So do it.
Exactly. So now let's move on to our second segment, which we call This Week. And this week, we're both watching the new X-Men 97 on Disney Plus.
Um,
I actually took notes for this.
I can't believe you took notes.
I took notes.
For me,
Have them right here.
it's really good that they
It's so
brought
good.
this back. Uh, this is really good, like for X-Men fans like myself.
Mhm.
Also, they seem to be doing a pretty good job at showcasing just how diverse these people's powers are, which
Yes.
a lot of the other, animated series and live action movies has done a terrible job at doing. But this is
But
really good.
I like the fact that this is a continuation of the first X-Men that came out in 1997. This is basically like a continuation. It's not just like a remake of what that was, because in this one they're more adult, they're grown up, they're more mature, they're dealing with like adult things. I mean, at this point I don't get why they killed Professor X, but I guess they'll explain that
Um,
throughout, but
Throughout the
we'll
time,
see.
I've watched a lot of series, and there's been a lot of variations where he died or he's not the leader. So it's not really shocking to me per se.
No, it's not
'Cause
shocking, I'm just like, since you're bringing it back, why would you kill him off screen? Because he didn't die in the original.
I guess because, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody because I don't really care for spoilers because the comics are there. For
Yeah.
animate for like things like DC and Marvel, the comics are there. So like people been talking about it and they've been saying, "Oh, I can see what storyline they're going with the whole Storm thing and the whole Sentinels thing."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, all right, that
But don't
sounds
spoil
cool.
it for people who don't know it.
Don't yeah, that sounds cool. But people talk about it, but I usually watch them
So-
because I'm interested to know.
Speaking of Storm, I loved that they acknowledged, I think in the first episode it was, that
the
she is
second one.
Omega.
Yeah,
They acknowledged that, and I love that because she is.
that was so cool. You
It
see
really
her
was.
turning the sand into glass
Into
and then
glass.
causing like a tornado filled
But
with those gas swords.
you remember when I think it was on the
Literally
superpower.
last week.
You mentioned that. You mentioned that last week that you would
Yep.
love to see them do that, and there it is.
That's
It was
exactly
really
what they
cool.
should.
Like the moment I saw that happening, I was like, Drew, we were just talking about this.
I think people don't understand like Omega level mutants. They're basically like a threat that can end the entire world if they
They
wanted
can
to.
end the
That's
world
how
if they
powerful they
wanted
are.
to.
So it's
Like
good
their
that
power level it has no scale.
so it's good that they're like showcased in how even Cyclops, we saw Cyclops falling. He can't fly. I know he can be an annoying character, but like him using
I really don't like Scott.
him
I really don't
using
like
the
Scott. His
him
blast to
using
slow
the
himself
blast to slow himself down, also to do something almost like teleport, which is not teleport, but he just uses it to push himself away back and
Yeah.
forth, and that is cool to see.
I don't know what it is about the character of Scott, but or Cyclops, but I've just never liked him in any version of the X-Men. I've never liked Cyclops. He's just always been so annoying to me. I just don't like him.
I know he can be annoying. Also,
Very.
what is this situation with Magneto and Rogue?
Well, in the comics, they did have a thing going on. So I guess that's why they're doing it now. But who I feel bad for is Gambit, because Gambit clearly likes her. But Rogue and Magneto did have a thing at one point in the comics. So
Oh,
I guess they're writing. Since it's more grown up, I guess they're like writing that into it so we can get that storyline.
because this was created for the fans. This isn't like a kids thing. Like it's very adult. So it's like
And you can tell that they knew they were making this for the people who read the story back when it was out in 1997. You can tell. Like it's made with love. You can see the people who brought it back. You can tell that they actually know what they're doing.
because they actually brought back the original voice actors as well.
Yes.
So it's just so good.
Can I just say though, I've never understood Jubilee's power. What is her power? Fireworks?
It's almost
Lights?
It's almost no. It's like fireworks. The mutant with the light power is Dazzler that can say.
Yes, yes.
But not Jujubee.
Not Drag Race.
Jubilee, it's like fireworks. It's like fireworks.
But have we ever seen her use it to fight?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Because it's like sparklers like it makes no sense to me.
It's
her power.
It's kind of like what should I say? Not Jubilee. I saw a video the other day on TikTok where he was talking about mutants with the worst powers. And like
Jubilee's one of them.
No,
Sorry.
Jubilee, not Jubilee. No, it's way worse than that. But then I was watching another video of his and he was like people who don't really make much sense on the team, and they were talking about Morph. And I kind of realized that the way writers aren't really like imaginative, like the way that they showcase people's powers sometimes doesn't do them any well, because here it is that we're watching this series and Morph is using his power as a support. Like he literally transformed into Archangel when they were falling. He literally transformed into that squishy guy like Colossus, and I'm like, that's how you use a shape-shifting ability. You might not get the kinetic or psychic powers, but you transform into someone that's jelly-like or super strong. You basically
But you realize
you modify that
when he transforms into them, he uses their
powers as well, which is
so
cool.
I think in a way Morph, I would say, is more powerful than Mystique, because when Mystique transforms, she doesn't use
it's just
their
an imitation,
powers.
yeah.
She's just imitating them, but he's using the powers because he even transformed during the fight in the second season. He transformed in, I don't know remember the girl who has the katanas, the swords? He transformed into her. Yes, and he was like fighting. So I like Morph actually. They said he had the worst power?
No, they just said like, because they showed like a clip and they're like, oh, Morph is just there not doing anything. And I'm like, a lot of time this kind of skew how people view a character.
Yeah,
because
I
the
get
actors aren't, not the actors, the writers aren't really like imaginative to
Yeah.
say, oh, if they can do this, they must can do that, or they just write them poorly.
If I would say somebody with the worst, I would say Toad.
No,
literally a
Toad is
frog.
kind of,
Just a frog.
but then he gets the frog-like abilities. So
Yeah.
what if
My
they were
favorite
like,
line.
he's like a venomous, so they can spit venom on you or some shit like
But
that.
he does do that. It's like
But
kind
it's
of
not
like
venomous. It's sticky.
toxic, like acid.
Is
Well,
it?
in X-Men, I think it was Revolution back in the early 2000s. Whenever he would spit, it would like burn holes. It was like acid.
I don't really
I
remember
don't know.
that, but
Yeah, that's the one where they were all in high school, and you had like Kitty phasing through the wall and stuff like that. Yeah. And
but-
Rogue had more like a what you call it? More like a gothic look. Her hair was short. She wore black with green lipstick and all that.
no, I remember
And then
X-Men
gothic
Evolution. It's just that
Evolution, not revolution. Evolution, yeah.
they're probably having a freaking revolution against the human race, but no.
Probably.
But do you also know that X-Men was created? It was modeled after racism or something like that, with mutants representing the
I
black
was
and
about to
humans
say that.
representing.
That is in my notes.
It was I think Charles was MLK or something like that, and Magneto
Yeah.
was somebody else. Yeah, that's
He
literally
was
what they.
Magneto was Ma- not Malcolm X.
Yeah, I think it's Malcolm X and
Yeah.
and Martin
MLK.
Luther King, MLK.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's cool. At least we
But
got
what
that
I wrote
out
was
of.
I said there are some very strong themes in this new one, and they're not really like playing around or trying to hide these themes. They're very outright with them, and I like that. Which is why I said it's more mature, because clearly they know the audience that's going to be watching this is a more grown up, mature audience, so they're not going to make it like somewhat childish, because even Jean is pregnant, like all of these things, it's very much more for
that
adults, I
cliffhanger.
think.
That
I'm
cliffhanger.
thinking that the Jean who is pregnant is probably not the real Jean.
I spoiled
and
it
that
for
one
myself.
who came back is the real one.
I spoiled it because I have this dirty habit of when I'm watching things
You
like
go on
Marvel and
TikTok.
DC. No, when I'm watching it, like while I'm watching it, and like I'll see like a character, like I'll like, this person hasn't used their powers yet, so let me go Google what it is. And
Yeah.
I was like, what is when they named the baby, I Googled the name of the baby.
Yeah.
That spoiled it for me.
No.
That spoiled the entire end for me because I was reading it. I was just like, okay.
Okay.
But
So you
yeah,
kind of know what's going to happen already.
yeah. Because
Okay.
things, when I was reading it, I was just like, something
But-
doesn't add up. But
Question: Was
we'll
it like
see.
a girl that they had?
it's a boy.
It's a boy. Okay, because I know.
In the future, they do
remember-
have a girl.
Yeah, no. I was going to say I know of them having a boy, because when I was, I think, in high school, my mom, she got me like 3 comics, and I think they're still at home if I should ask her to find them. But in one of them, the storyline was Jean and Scott's son. So I knew they had a son, so I was assuming it's going to be him. I don't remember what he was called, but he was like overpowered. He was Omega level as well. So
Yeah, because
I
to get like a lot of
Yeah.
like powers from their parents.
because he had Scott's power in one eye that he could control. He didn't have to wear glasses, and he had all of Jean's powers. So, yeah.
But excited to see where they'll go with this,
Same.
especially the Storm storyline.
Yeah.
And I wish they actually dropped all of the episodes as one because I'm greedy. But
I
you know.
wish they had done that. Not just 2 episodes, just like give us everything all at once so we can binge it. But you
Yeah.
know, they have to make money. People have to come back every week.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
But do you think this is a good place to end this episode?
You got more things to say?
Not really. I think we can wrap it up here.
Exactly. Again, I have a life to get back to. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyway, with that said, guys, I've been that guy Rickster.
This was Darian.
And this has been another episode of Shiggles. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Bye, guys.